Hello and welcome back to another video. My name is Kizzy and today we're going to talk about some books, and those books are going to be my best books or favourite books of 2020. So I have many videos planned for 2020, kind of wrap up books. I have my best books, my worst books, my most surprising books and my most disappointing books. And the best books and surprising books are kind of going to overlap a little bit. Some of the surprising books I think were really good and they just missed out on being on this best book list. And some of these best books were also my most surprising books, but because they are the best, they have come onto this list instead. So I will obviously explain when those books come up that were like surprising to me or etc. Yes, did that make sense? So the most surprising, the bestness overtook the surprisingness when I decided to split these two videos apart. Did that make sense? That was like the most confusing intro to a video. But I have 5 books to share with you in each of these videos, and they are going to be my top 5 of obviously what the title is. So, the best books of 2020, I'm so excited for this. The best book that actually I have, I think potentially is my most favourite book, and I want to reread it already. Well, not already, because I read it back in January. So it was one of my best books, and I read it at the start of the year, and I'm not sure if it was topped. Definitely came close. I haven't rated any of these, so they're not rated like 1 to 5. I'm not doing the best to last or whatever, but some of them are better than others. But yes, I love this book. And this is the Stylisty by Erin Morgenstern. I don't have it with me, it's actually back home, but it is a beautiful book inside and out. I can see why people dislike it. It's quite whimsical, it's quite random. There doesn't seem to be much like story to it until you get to the end. It just seems like a bit of a mismatch of beautiful writing. But it is amazing. I loved it. I did connect to the characters. Some people said they didn't. I loved it. Connected to the characters, loved the storyline. Thought it was very intriguing, very wonderful, and just the more I read it, the more I just had that kind of warm, cozy feeling like I was just being wrapped in a blanket. Even though I read most of it in bed, so I probably was wrapped in a blanket. But it was just an amazing read, and I would recommend it highly. This follows a boy who discovers this book that is written about him, but it was written about him way before he existed in his library. So he finds it, does it have a date? I think it might have a date, but it doesn't have like a title or anything. Oh no, it has a title. It's got very minimal information on it, so he can't find out where it's from, who wrote it, etc. But he knows it is about him, and it's about an event from his childhood where he saw this door and he'd made the decision not to go through it. And it has like played on his mind ever since, like maybe he should have gone through this door. But he discovers this book and he reads it and he realizes it's about him, and he goes on this little kind of semi-crisis and trying to discover what this book's about and how he can find the source and what the information and all about this door and these other doors and this key and a bee, and it's great. I loved it. I would highly recommend it. 5 stars, definitely. So the next book I have is one that I actually did an entire reading vlog just reading this book because I read it in 12 hours, I think. And it was meant to be a read a book in 24 hours video. It was a read a book in 12 hours. I adored it. It made me cry, it made me laugh. I hated the characters, I loved the characters. I just had all these emotions going through me. And this book is of course The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. You've probably seen it all over BookTube, but it is one book that I can definitely say is valid for all the love and praise that it gets. I just can't imagine people having bad reviews about it. Like, there is abuse in it. The character's not... Actually, she has a lot of like hateful qualities about her that you dislike, and you're just kind of like, that's a bit dodge, but you can't help but root for her. You know, you're just her. Yeah, it's just an incredible book that will make you change your mind, twist that you'll flip flop your mind about what you think of these characters. It is heartbreaking. I sobbed. It is. Oh. And the twist at the end. Whew, the twist at the end. I was very surprised by this book. This is one of the books that was surprising to me because I went in it knowing that I would like it, not knowing how much I would like it. Especially it was my mum's book that I actually gifted to her, to be fair. But it was my mum's book. She said it was really good, so I was like, oh, I'll give it a go. It's quite, you know, it'll be good for this video. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. Didn't put it down obviously for like 12 hours, so would highly recommend that if you like that kind of contemporary. It's like modern contemporary, like Hollywood stuff. It was great. It was great. The next book I have is actually the finale to a series, and it's one of the best series in the world. I would definitely recommend it, and this book definitely did not fold. And that is The Empire of Gold by S.A. Chakraborty. It's an incredible, incredible book. I actually read some one-star reviews for the first book in the series in a video I just did, and some people said her writing wasn't good, but I just think her writing is amazing. I think she's got really incredible writing, especially if you're looking to kind of read an adult book that kind of has similar feels to a YA book. Like if you're trying to get into YA when you read adult, if you're trying to get into adult and you read YA, I think this is a great transition series, but I think it also works both in both genres. If you read adult fantasy, you will love this because it's got the complexity that adult fantasy tends to have in their novels, but it also has the ease of writing that you just fall into her writing, and it's incredible. It's just a well-written, well thought through, interesting and dynamic fantasy that I thoroughly enjoyed and would definitely recommend. Obviously, I won't tell you what the third book in the series is, but the first book in the series follows this girl called Nahiri. She is born or lives in the mortal world, and she is a healer, a bit of a con artist, but she's kind of thrown into this magical world with Jin, and she discovers a lot about herself. There is wars going on between this, tension brewing, and dodgy stuff going on behind the scenes. But there is some of the best friendships in here, some of the best romances that aren't really romance until they become romances. Not going to spoil anything, but some of the best friendships in here. Characters you will definitely dislike a lot or love. There's one character in particular called Dara who I absolutely detest, but I've heard other people who read this book who absolutely loved him and rooted for him. So, you know, it's a bit of a twisty one. You have to make up your mind yourself about which one you want to be when you read it, because you definitely should read it because it's amazing. And if you haven't read it yet already, I don't know what you're doing. Get reading. And now that the whole series is out, you could just marathon it. Great stuff. Now we have the fourth book, and this is the start of a series, and it was the best YA book that I read all year and one of the best fantasy books that I've read all year. I was really struggling to find good YA fantasy, and I thought maybe I just moved past YA fantasy as a genre and it just wasn't for me anymore. And then I came across this book and it changed my mind. Again, YA fantasy can still be incredible. And that book is A Song of Wrath and Ruin. Oh, it was so good. It was so good. I would very highly recommend. It is quite short, so it's not like a slog to get through if you don't like fantasy for that reason. The writing is obviously got that kind of YA ease to it, but the story is just great. You will root for the characters. You will kind of be like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? The world as well itself is very interesting, and just there is layers to it that you will enjoy thoroughly. And I can't wait for the next book to come out, which comes out this year. Oh. So this follows two characters. One girl, she has just become the queen of this, I think it's a city. Sorry, I'm going off memory. My memory's not that great. She has just become this queen, and there is currently a festival going on, and there's got stuff going on. And then there's this one boy who wants to get him and his siblings into the city so that they can kind of get away from those who are trying to kill him and his family from where they lived in a village quite far away from this place. But then his younger sister is stolen by a demon type creature, and to get her back he has to kill the princess. And obviously there's a little bit of a hate-love romance in there as well. And there's like a game thing going on, there's magic, there's mythology, there's demons. It's a jolly old good time, and I'm excited for the next book, if you can't tell. So the last book that I have on this series, which was kind of a surprise. I mean, it's not a surprise in the fact that I love Brandon Sanderson and I know all his books are gonna be great, but this was a surprise at how much I absolutely loved this one, and it is Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. This is a standalone book within the Cosmere, so I would recommend the recommended order. There is many orders, to be fair, out there, but the way I did it was the way I found it. And is to read Elantris, a standalone, then the Mistborn trilogy, which is a trilogy, funnily enough, and then Warbreaker before starting the Stormlight Archive, which is a 10-book series. Only the first 4 are currently out. So you can read this on its own. It's recommended you read the other ones before, but you know what, do whatever you want. And it is incredible. It is, It has got all the kind of complexities and table turns and twists that Brandon Sanderson's writing has, but it is also much more fast-paced than his typical writing is, because it was all like put into this one book, so it had to be fast-paced to get everything in, and I think it worked really well. I adored it, absolutely adored it. I think the system of gods is incredibly interesting. The characters are interesting. Some characters let me down a little bit, but not so much that I obviously dislike the book because it's in my top 5. But it was just an incredible read, and I loved it, and it made an amazing book. An amazing book. This follows quite a few storylines. We have 2 sisters who are kind of from this kingdom. It's very complicated, I can't explain it. So this kingdom in the history is split. The original royal family have gone and kind of hidden in the upper pass mountain area, and they control a lot of the trade that now goes on to the new city that is run by this very strange system of gods. The gods are alive. They have come back from the dead, not because they were dead before, but their gods are people who have died and somehow miraculously come back to alive, and that makes them gods in this society, and they are kind of like weighted on hand and foot. But there is a war brewing in the horizon, and one of the sisters is sent to marry the head god of the thing. There's a little bit of swapping and switching and juicy stuff, and it's just an amazing, amazing book, and it's very interesting. I think you could study this as like a book in school. And I think it would come across very interesting, or it would reveal some very interesting things. As you can see, my cat also loved it as she chewed the corner. It's tasty too. An amazing book, one I would highly recommend. And even if you want to get into Sanderson but you're not really knowing when to start with his standalone. Start with Elantris, that was also a really great book. Or start with Warbreaker. You're not going through the order, but it doesn't really matter. At the moment, anyway. It doesn't. I'm not sure why you have to read it in a specific order. So, read it. So those are all my best books of 2020. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what your best books are for 2020 and if I should read them, because probably I should if they were your favourite. Comment them down below. Please like this video if you like the video, and subscribe if you would like to see more of my face on your screen. So thank you again for watching. Glad you made it this far through the video, and I shall see you in the next one.